The airport runway was lined with people, their eyes full of hope, their hands waving small American flags that fluttered in the breeze. Some held signs that read "Welcome home," or "Thank you for your service." Others stood quietly, gripping phones or wiping their eyes. It was the kind of day that felt bigger than just a homecoming. It felt like the end of something hard and the beginning of something new. The plane had just landed. Families leaned forward, scanning the door, hearts pounding with anticipation. Mothers held their children tight. Veterans stood straight in uniform. Everyone was waiting for one soldier in particular, but there was someone waiting who didn't understand the banners or the flags. A golden retriever stood near the front of the crowd, his leash held loosely by an older woman. His ears were perked. His eyes never stopped moving. He paced back and forth, nose in the air, tail low, like he was searching for a scent only he could smell. The dog's name was Max, and he was waiting for his best friend. No one in the crowd knew what Max was about to do, and in just a few minutes, he would leave everyone watching with tears in their eyes. Luke wasn't the kind of guy who talked a lot, but everyone in town knew he had a good heart. He grew up in a small house at the edge of the woods, raised by his mom after his dad passed away when Luke was just a kid. Life wasn't always easy, but Luke never complained. On his 16th birthday, his mom surprised him with a golden retriever puppy. Luke named him Max. From the first day they were inseparable. Max followed him everywhere, down the hiking trails, to the lake, even to the corner store. Luke taught Max to sit, stay, and even bring in the mail. But more than tricks, they shared something deeper. Max could sense when Luke was sad. He'd rest his head on Luke's knee, and stay there, quiet and still, until Luke felt better. After high school, Luke joined the army. He said it was his way of giving back, of doing something bigger than himself. The day he left for basic training, Max chased the car down the driveway until he couldn't run anymore. Luke looked back through the window and promised, "I'll come back, buddy. I swear." Each time Luke came home on leave, Max went wild with joy. He'd bark, leap, and lick Luke's face like he couldn't believe he was real. But those visits got shorter, and Luke's eyes looked different, tired, older. During Luke's last tour, things changed. Letters stopped coming. Phone calls became rare. At home, Max grew quieter. He stopped playing with toys. He'd sit at the front door for hours, ears perked, watching the street like he was waiting for someone only he could see. Luke had always promised to come back, but war has a way of changing people, and for the first time, even Max seemed unsure. It happened during a routine patrol, at least, that's what Luke's team thought. They were checking a quiet village road when the ground shook beneath them. In a flash, everything turned to fire and smoke. Luke didn't remember the blast itself. One second he was walking, the next he was on the ground, barely breathing. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He felt something warm running down his legs. But when he looked, he couldn't feel them at all. Two of his brothers in arms were caught in the explosion too. Luke, though badly hurt, pulled them both out of the burning truck. He dragged them behind a wall, shielding them with his own body until help arrived. He saved their lives, but the damage to his own was permanent. When Luke woke up in a hospital bed days later, he was told the truth. His legs were gone. The explosion had shattered his lower spine. He would never walk again. He tried to stay strong, tried not to cry. But the nights were the worst, not because of the pain, but because he didn't want anyone, especially Max, to see him like this. Back home, Max had changed. He hardly ate. He didn't wag his tail much anymore. He lay near the door, nose pressed to the floor, waiting for a sound that never came. Every time a car pulled into the driveway, Max perked up, only to drop his head again in disappointment. Luke's mom sent videos of Max, hoping to cheer her son up. But each time Luke saw his dog's eyes so sad, so lost, it broke something inside him. He kept thinking, what if Max doesn't recognize me? What if he sees the chair before he sees me? Luke didn't want pity, and he definitely didn't want to return as a hero who couldn't walk, so he delayed coming home. But Max kept waiting. Every single day, and deep down, Luke knew he couldn't hide forever, from his family, from the town, or from Max, because some promises can't be broken. And Luke had made one a long time ago. "I'll come back, buddy. I swear. After months of recovery, Luke finally agreed to come home. It wasn't easy, he still didn't feel ready, not physically, not emotionally. But something inside him said it was time. Time to stop hiding. Time to face whatever came next. His mom didn't tell him everything. She wanted it to be a surprise. All Luke knew was that the town wanted to welcome him back. He didn't expect a big crowd. He didn't want attention. But as the plane began to land, he saw people lined up along the edge of the runway, holding flags, clapping, and wiping tears from their eyes. They weren't just strangers. These were neighbors, friends, teachers, people who had watched him grow up. Some were old veterans standing tall in their uniforms. Others were kids sitting on their parents' shoulders, waving little signs that said, "Welcome home, Luke." Luke's hands gripped the wheels of his chair. His heart pounded harder than it ever had in combat. He wasn't afraid of being hurt. He was afraid of being seen, broken, changed. And then he saw him. Max. He was standing near the front of the crowd, eyes locked on the open door of the plane. His tail was still, his ears forward. The moment Luke appeared at the top of the ramp, Max froze. There was no barking, no wagging. Just silence. Luke didn't move. He couldn't. 1,000 thoughts ran through his head. Does he know it's me? Will he come? Or just turn away? The crowd went quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Luke slowly began to roll forward, down the ramp. His eyes never left Max. And Max didn't take a single step. It was like the world stopped, just for them. No one knew what the dog would do next. And Luke, he wasn't sure he could take it if Max didn't run to him. But in the next few seconds, everything would change. And no one watching would ever forget what happened. Max stood still, staring at Luke like he couldn't believe his eyes. His tail didn't move, his paws didn't budge. The air felt heavy. No one in the crowd spoke. It was like time itself had paused. Luke felt his throat tighten. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe Max didn't recognize him after all. The chair, the uniform, the scars. It was too much. He blinked hard, trying to hold back tears. Then without warning, Max took a single step. Then another. Then he broke into a run. His leash slipped out of Luke's mom's hands as Max charged down the runway, ears flapping, eyes wide with something more than joy. The crowd gasped as the golden retriever sprinted toward the man in the wheelchair. Luke barely had time to react before Max reached him. But Max didn't jump or bark. He slowed down right in front of Luke, lowered his head gently, and placed it on Luke's lap, soft, steady and still. Luke couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came, hot and fast. He reached down with shaking hands and buried his fingers in Max's fur. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, buddy." Max licked his hands, once, then twice. And then, he did something no one expected. He climbed, slowly, carefully, into Luke's lap. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't perfect. But Max curled himself up as best he could, resting his body against Luke's chest like he was trying to protect him. As if to say, "I've got you now. You're home." The crowd didn't just cheer. They cried. Even the toughest men in uniform wiped their eyes. Moms held their kids tighter. Someone dropped their phone trying to record it. Others simply stood still, hands over their hearts, watching something that words couldn't explain. Luke smiled through his tears, the first real smile he'd shown in months. And Max? He didn't move. He stayed curled in Luke's lap, like he belonged there. Like he'd never let go again. And for the first time since the explosion, Luke didn't feel broken. He felt loved. And that changed everything. Life didn't go back to normal overnight. Healing takes time. But something changed that day on the runway. Something inside Luke. He started physical therapy the very next week. It was hard. Some days it felt impossible. But Max was there for every session, lying beside the mat, or watching closely as Luke tried to lift himself up, one shaky push at a time. Max even learned new tricks: how to bring Luke his wheelchair, how to open doors, how to bark when Luke dropped something out of reach. But the most important thing Max did was stay. He never left Luke's side. Not when the pain got bad. Not when Luke felt like giving up. And not when the tears came late at night. Little by little, Luke grew stronger. His arms gained muscle. His smile came back. His laugh too. And one spring morning, months after coming home, Luke stood up with braces and support bars. Max right beside him, tail wagging like crazy. That video went viral. People from all over the country sent letters, drawings, even treats for Max. But Luke didn't care about fame. All he cared about was keeping his promise. He came home. And Max had waited. Now they were healing together. Today, if you walk through that small town, you might see a young man in a wheelchair rolling down the sidewalk. You'll see a golden retriever trotting proudly beside him, tail high and eyes bright. Kids wave. Adults smile. Some even stop to shake Luke's hand. But most people, they just look at Max. Because the day Luke returned, it wasn't just a soldier coming home. It was a best friend keeping a promise. And a dog showing the world that real love never forgets.